I mean, what we've learned is there is nothing that some of these people on the right will not cynically abuse. There is nothing that is not beyond them weaponizing to push their agenda, to undermine everything they want to undermine. It's really depressing, but it's also in a kind of evil genius impressive. I've seen people in the White House briefing room see Donald Trump abuse a colleague of theirs, ignore their question, and they say not a word, and they just go to the next question. You have no clothes on.
I'm just like imagining Obama points to a reporter, they ask a challenging question, and he says, who are you with? Fox News? You're fake news. Enemy of the people. Like, it would just be revolutionary war, bro. The conservatives would lose their minds in ways that you just couldn't even begin to comprehend how over it would be. Oh my God. How Trump broke America's information system with Mehdi Hasan. Somebody really kept spamming me to watch this.
What do you make of the divide and the poisoning of the media landscape extending, or the information landscape extending to small towns in other parts of the country?
Yeah, it's depressing. It's depressing because we all kind of knew this was coming, and it is happening. I think people are in denial about what is happening at every level of government, every level of journalism, every level of the country. Just local journalism, Alex, as many of you.
Man, I don't know if it ever got that. I don't think it got anywhere near as much coverage as it should have. But reading the minutes or whatever, reading the the transcription of the city council meetings, where the people were talking about how like we can't accept the Biden money for our city in that flooded Texas county or whatever because we know that they're going to use it to come and steal our homes. That's insane. That's fucking crazy. That's like criminal levels of disinformation. How mind those people were. Jesus.
Your viewers, listeners may know, was the last trusted bastion. When you look at polling of the American public, the public's kind of gone off mainstream media for a while now, not just Republicans, people on the left as well. You can go back to the Iraq War, you can go back to the financial crisis. You've seen kind of trust in media plummeting over the last couple of decades. But one area where it held up a bit better was local journalism. And I think Republicans and the right, and for want of a better word, the fascists trying to take over our country, understand that. And therefore, if you're going to, keep on ensuring that your followers are in a little bubble and not part of a reality-based universe with the rest of us, then ultimately that assault that we're seeing on media in Washington, D.C., on late-night comedy shows, student newspapers, has to also reach local journalism as well. And it's very easy because, again, the financial pressures at the local level are even higher than at the national level. So, I admire those editors and bosses who are supporting their reporters in places like Pennsylvania and all of these towns. But it's only going to get harder because, and we saw this, by the way, during the Biden administration with the school board meetings, if you remember. A lot of the stories, a lot of the things that roused people at school board meetings turned out not to be true. They were viral stories. They were internet stories. You now have kind of...
the big one, that big stupid story that, like, again, just like a proper sanity check, like, really, guys, that Joe Rogan took part in spreading, and even he like laughed like, oh, I can't believe I fell for this misinformation. How many times has Joe Rogan had like a strong opinion on his stupid podcast, and then he's like, look that up, it's like, wait, that was AI?
I saw a video today of a boxing match between a father and a son. It made me so sad because there's this young kid, he looks like he's probably like 17 or 18, and the father's 42. And the father beats the shit out of him. And I'm like, that's your son. That's your son. And we're watching you beat your son up. You don't tee off on your son's face on television. It's crazy. That you failed. You've failed as a man. Yeah, this is it.
That's not exactly what was happening.
It's not? What is it?
They're not father-son.
Oh, why does it lie?
Because
it says father knocks out son in celebrity boxing match.
Gotta get somebody to click on this.
Oh.
Remember when he was like crying almost about like, it was just crazy. Oh, I was talking about the kitty litter story, by the way, where Joe Rogan on his show was like, oh yeah, like kids are bringing, or they have to have kitty litter boxes set up because of how many of them are LARPing as cats or whatever, or as furries. You are the media gatekeeper guy for a lot of people. They watch you, and you're their first and last stop for media literacy, as horrifying as that is. And this guy's just literally falling for stupid slop. He has no idea. Oh my God. This one, bro, how do you not have these moments and not like reconsider
there's people that
your entire stance on media?
Voted for Biden that are doing it now. They're like, what did I do?
Right.
Like, what did I choose? Like, how is this guy?
Yeah, you just can't listen to an interview or he's saying some of the stuff he says that just makes no sense at all. It's like you can't listen to those interviews and feel like you made a good decision. I don't know how you could.
Did you hear what he said like yesterday or a couple days ago?
Mm-mm.
He's talking about the Revolutionary War.
By the way, this fully justifies when I said that if you were to show things that Trump has said on paper to people, they would think he's fucking crazy. But because it's Trump, it's epic, it's based, it's hilarious, they give him a pass on everything.
He's like, one of the reasons why we lost the Revolutionary War, one of the problems with the Revolutionary War was they didn't have enough airports.
Yeah.
Have you seen that?
I saw that. It's like, what the hell?
Like, pull him.
It's crazy.
If you had any other job and you were talking like that,
yeah,
they would go, hey, you're done.
A few moments later.
The same stable genius that said the biggest problem we had in the Revolutionary War is we didn't have enough airports. Whoa.
So,
Yeah, that's it.
Whoa.
What?
Just for the record,
Is that fake?
it's not fake, but he was referencing Trump saying that. Here's what Trump saying it in 2019.
Oh.
Donald Trump said something about that. He didn't say Jesus. He said a stable genius, and that's where the transcription.
Let me hear what it says. What did he say?
In June of 1775, the Continental Congress created a unified army out of the revolutionary forces encamped around Boston and New York, and named after the great George Washington, Commander-in-Chief. The Continental Army suffered a bitter winter of Valley Forge, found glory across the waters of the Delaware, and seized victory from Cornwallis of Yorktown. Our army manned the airport. It ran the ramparts. It took over the airports. It did everything it had to do.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So he fucked up.
Yeah, he did. But I feel like
Took over
that's
the airport.
you can tell too. It sounds like a little different. He's like, you could tell he like messed up his words, but
Yeah.
he's just, I don't know.
Like, how do you not see this happening to you in real time? How do you not see this happening in real time where you're like, oh my God, this other fuck up? Imagine if you had a job, like, if you had a job, you'd be fired. But now for Trump, it's like, well, you know, people fuck up sometimes. They make mistakes, right? It happens.
For the airports.
Well, that's
it
the
is
thing
funny.
about media these days. It's like,
Right.
you
never
gotta
know.
look into it.
I gotta say, Joe Rogan might have a reputation of not being a bullshitter, but that was some bullshit.
Anyway, fuck this guy. Sorry.
People impersonating local newspapers online. It is very hard. I mean, there's a faction of people who are just bonkers and we're never going to get through them. But there's a faction of people who are just, you know, not media savvy or media literate and don't know where to get their news and can't distinguish between the local reporter and the Facebook page and the national reporter and the rest.
The majority of people just find it all so distasteful and uncomfortable and sort of don't want to be around it. They don't want to be involved in the back and forth between the local media and the local elected officials. And so as a result, they just don't engage. They tune out. They don't want to be seen as on one side or the other. And so they just shut themselves off from what is actually a crucial resource for facts and information about how big national issues filter down to their front doorstep. Because you travel this country, you talk to people. Most people aren't totally insane, but a lot of people don't want to deal with the insanity, right? So
they don't want to deal with the insanity. I think worse, they don't know about the insanity.
Right.
I know it might sound strange to say, oh, everyone knows that Trump's crazy. Everyone. No, I don't think people quite, even internationally. Do you know how many people abroad, people in the UK, people around the world have said to me, wow, that Trump speech? And I'm like, that's our everyday life. Like, you got to see it one day of the year because, you watched a full speech at the UN. So
that guy, the Israeli dude that I talked to in New York yesterday, there were like 4 different times in our conversation where he was like, I understand what you're saying. And he's like, one time he's like, are you sure you're not being biased? And I'm like, well, what do you mean? I can talk about facts for anything you're talking about. It's like, well, he's like, I don't know. I've never heard any of these things before. I've never heard this before. I don't know. I didn't know about this thing. Or I've never, heard that Trump was really involved in it. And it's like nothing, right? As an Israeli who probably, my guess is, knows more about U.S. media than any other random country, generally speaking. I mean, he's in New York, right? Yeah, just the amount of like crazy shit that just nobody fucking has any knowledge of at all.
I think people don't quite realize the insanity that has filtered down from national to local levels. Some of the local politicians these journalists are covering are way crazier than any member of Congress.
Yep.
Because, of course, there's less accountability. There's a lower bar to getting elected. It's much easier for the batshit crazy people to get on the school board or the county commission or whatever it is. And I think that's very worrying, too. When you look at some of the craziest Republicans saying the craziest stuff, they are local politicians. And therefore, you do need a robust local media to hold them to account. But the problem is that the American media as a whole, Alex, is not fit for purpose in this moment. It's not designed for this moment. It's designed for a kind of 1950s, 60s, two-party golden era, if such a thing existed, where everyone, argues during the day and then hangs out together in the evening. Chuck Schumer and my best Republican friends are in the Senate gym with me. And media organizations, which, all stand with each other. I remember when the Obama administration tried to move the Fox chair to a different part of the briefing room. Jake Tapper led the charge to protect Fox's spot in the briefing room. How quaint those media challenges sound.
I was a person in the briefing room at that time, and I had a very much assigned seat that I would not budge from.
But that was seen as a big First Amendment attack, and it feels so funny now in hindsight. And I just think whether you're local media or national media, it is very hard to cover a trend, a phenomenon, which makes you uncomfortable. Your point about people wanting not to be in the room. You see that again. I don't follow local politics that much or local media, but at the national level, I've seen this for 10 years. I've seen people in the White House briefing room see Donald Trump abuse a colleague of theirs, ignore their question, and they say not a word and they just go to the next question. There's no solidarity between those reporters. There's no people sticking together. There is no child saying to the emperor, you have no clothes on.
I'm just like imagining, I feel so stupid saying this over and over again. Obama points to a reporter. They ask a challenging question and he says, who are you with? Fox News? You're fake news. enemy of the people. Like it would just be fucking revolutionary war, bro. The conservatives would lose their minds in ways that you just couldn't even begin to comprehend how over it would be. Oh my God.
Oh, and I'm not excusing that at all. I do wonder what you think about the phenomenon that is now accepted as kind of just the way things are, which is, Republicans don't talk to the press. I mean, there are these kind of confections, these kind of fantasy outlets that are now populating the White House briefing room that are sort of made up far-right propaganda.
Only the ones that will play ball, right? This is the issue. And this issue is actually, there's complete parity in my world now too, where for about a year or two, right, no more debates, no more critical conversations, because what people have realized is if I can just build up a caricature of what my adversary thinks, I never have to actually talk to my adversary. I can just beat up the straw man every single day. And when you live in an environment where you have 24/7 wall-to-wall news from your side politically, you don't really ever have to show the opposition in any meaningful way. Whereas in the past, maybe, you don't have the ability to saturate a person's newsfeed as much, so they're inevitably going to see something from the opposition. So you have to be somewhat tethered to reality because they're going to see something that person is saying. But now you can just flood their brains constantly with your side's logic and create whatever caricatures you want of the other side.
The outlets, but it's become completely acceptable for Republicans. And Tom Lissie talks about this. The Republicans either on the county commissioners board either don't talk to him or refer him to the public affairs official. And so what happens is if you can't talk to them, you have to talk to who will talk to you, which is in many cases Democrats. And then you become a reporter who is quoting not Republicans. And if people want to say, oh, your coverage is so biased, it's this insane negative feedback loop, right? It's like, oh, you never talk to Republicans because Republicans talk to you, but you don't talk to Republicans. I mean, like and then you lose more conservative readers. And
which is what they want, right? I mean,
yes.
Let's be clear. This is, as you said at the start, this is not about polarization. This is about Donald Trump poisoning the water for years to come. And it was a concerted strategy. It worked. It's been replicated. It's not just been replicated, Alex, down from national to local. It's been replicated upwards from national to international. I interview a lot of foreign politicians for a living. And over the last 10 years, I've seen them all start to sound like Trump, right? They all use the same tics, the same verbal tics, the same abuse of the press, the same fake news defense. Why wouldn't they? They're like, well, Donald Trump can get away with it. Why can't I? I don't blame them. Like, it's a use.
Ooh, right? You see what he says there? This is the tit for tat thing. This is the accountability thing. I feel so stupid because this is so obvious. You learn this from birth. Why would you not repeat exactly what Trump does when you see the massive reward there is for acting like that, right? There's no accountability. There's no punishment. There's no drawback. So why not? You should. You really should.
The same abuse of the press, the same fake news defense. Why wouldn't they? They're like, well, Donald Trump can get away with it. Why can't I? I don't blame them. Like, it's a useful, effective strategy. Yep. And that's, again, journalists are so not cut out for this moment because it's not, oh, I will quote Democrat today, Republican tomorrow. I'll do a Democratic scandal today, Republican scandal tomorrow. It is one faction of the political spectrum wants to destroy you, wants to destroy your credibility, wants to make sure you don't exist, wants your companies to go bust, wants you to be fired, wants you to be pulled off the air. You have to acknowledge, there was a line from, was it Marty Baron, when he was editor of the Washington Post? They said, how do you feel about this? And he said, we're not at war, we're at work. And oh, what a great, I thought that was the dumbest thing you could ever say. You don't get to choose if you're in a war, right? They're attacking you. You are in a war.
Yeah. And so, I mean, one of the things that has been asked of people like Tom Lissie, who kind of got into this to be that kind of classical, like 1960s reporter, is
straight down the middle, man.
Exactly. You got to be a warrior. And it's with such deep reluctance that someone like him finds himself at the center of the story. But I think what you're saying here, and I tend to agree with it, is if you're going to survive as someone who's trying to document the truth and share that information with the public, i.e. be a journalist, you got to be prepared to go to battle. Like, it's sorry, but that's the hazards of the job. And that's the world in which we now live, where, it's either really a free and fair press or you are part of, the authoritarian propaganda machine.
Yep.
You also have to be willing to say this is not normal at the start of every day, at the start of every report, at the start of every segment, at the start of every piece, because that is absolutely essential. The context is so important that we are not reporting in normal times. None of this is normal. It is not normal for the White House to be able to just pick which journalists go in the poll. It is not normal for the White House to say the AP can't come into the Oval Office because they called it the Gulf of Mexico, which is what everyone in the world calls it. It is not normal to do, have a comedian pulled off the air because you didn't like his joke, then deny that you pulled him off the air, and then have the president say, well, I was told he was going to be pulled off the air, I'm going to sue ABC now. So none of this is normal, and that context matters. I do think our J schools need to step up here. The journalism schools that are producing journalists, they're producing them with that old school mindset of like straight down the middle and view from nowhere, and you have no biases. Journalists should have biases.
Also, view from nowhere is like really just not a compelling argument for journalism.
Any time it's not a compelling argument, certainly not in the current time. But also this idea of like journalists shouldn't have biases. I mean, I've been railing against this for years. Of course, we should have a bias. We should have a bias towards democracy.
Yeah. The issue is the bias shouldn't be politically partisan, but you should be biased towards your institutions and systems that allow you to even function as a journalist, right? Like if I have a choice between a pro-racist candidate and an anti candidate and all else equal, like it's okay to have a bias there against the guy that you feel embodies your liberal democratic norms, which might include things like rule of law, which might include things like bodily autonomy, which might include things like laws against, right? It's okay to have that bias. It just shouldn't just be like, oh, well, he's Republican, so I support him, or oh, he's Democrat, so I support him, right?
Towards freedom, we should have a bias towards the truth, we should have a bias towards factual reality. The idea that you just drop that and you say, oh, well, this person told me the election was stolen and this person told me it wasn't. That is not the
same thing.
To do that.
I kind of wonder if in like the decades from now, whether we will really look at COVID as the kind of breaking point in terms of just basic trust between the right wing and the rest of the world. I mean, and I would say here in the United States, it just feels like half the country like fell off in a way that I think even today I haven't wrapped my arms around fully.
No, I agree with you, and I don't think any of us have. I don't think we still quite understood the shock and awe of that moment. I mean, we're seeing it even now with RFK Jr. and the vaccine schedules and all that nonsense. But I think you're right on the broader issue of trust. Like you hear Republicans, you hear conservatives, you see people online often saying, "Well, they lied to us about COVID."
Exactly.
Ergo, and it's almost like a right-wing version of the Iraq War for the left. The difference being the Iraq War was a bunch of lies about WMD, whereas in COVID, Anthony Fauci was not trying to trick you. There really was a disease that was going to kill you if you didn't, mask up.
And people died from it. Millions of them.
Did they? Did they die with COVID or from COVID? No.
Right.
But this is the insanity. Like, they've managed to question everything
Every
about it.
single thing.
And again, sorry to be the kind of liberal left basher, but I do think the Democrats, liberals, progressives, the left, across the board, again, acted like this wasn't a war on truth and reality and left the ground empty, the terrain for the right to occupy. So even today, it has become almost a fact of life that school closures were all bad, that it was all a big mistake, and there's no interrogation of that claim, which actually lots of experts and scientists and people who looked at the evidence say not necessarily the truth. That's just one example. But there are many examples where the ground was just laid open, and therefore the right were able to jump on and say, well, they lied to us, they lied to us, they lied to us. And again, use that in a very cynical, very deliberate way to again undermine the media, but not just the media in this case, expertise, scientists, doctors, to the point where today now RFK Jr. can be health secretary. If you'd said in 2020, Alex, on your show, if you'd gone and said, well, I'm worried that the next health secretary is going to be RFK Jr., people would have laughed you off the air. But he is the health secretary, and the only reason he is the health secretary, and even Trump was able to get away with such a contentious appointment, is because they ceded the ground to say we were lied to, we were misled, the media covered things up, the scientists were all part of a conspiracy. And I think you're right, brains were broken in 2020. It's understandable in some ways that brains would be broken. It was a traumatic, once in a century, once in a lifetime event. We're all stuck in our houses, people are dying en masse, but it was cynically abused. I mean, what we've learned is there is nothing that some of these people on the right will not cynically abuse. There is nothing that is not beyond them weaponizing to push their agenda, to undermine everything they want to undermine. It's really depressing, but it's also in a kind of evil genius impressive.
I would also add to all of that, I think, there was the assertion that people were lied to and the government bureaucrats were out there to just control people's minds and bodies and immune systems. There was also, and there is, this desire to rectify the loneliness and the sense of displacement and the existential dread by blaming someone for it. I think it was really hard on people, and people think back to those years and they're like, I was miserable, and I was miserable because of the left wing. I was miserable because it was someone else's fault, and people have a very hard time. I think it's an existential thing. People have a hard time acknowledging that often in the battle between man and nature sometimes wins or triumphs in the match, if not the war. But we as Americans have a sense of invincibility, and we are supposed to always be winning, and it felt like we were losing, and people could not grasp that or make sense of that and accept that. And so especially Republican leaders look for someone to blame. Like, it didn't have to be this way. This was not because of any fault of our own or any vulnerability that's built into human DNA. It's because of bad people who are on the left who wanted to silence you and keep you at home and make you miserable. And it's the nanny state run amok.
100% looking for blame. And Elon Musk pushed that narrative very early on. Also, uncertainty, right? We don't deal well with uncertainty. It was do you wear a mask? No, actually you should wear a mask. And then that was sign of a conspiracy. I remember the clip of Rachel Maddow, our former colleague, going viral on the right, where she said, now you've had the vaccine, you can't get COVID, because that's what we were told at the beginning. And then people realized, actually, no, it doesn't prevent transmission. And people saw that as some kind of conspiracy as well, not as scientists feeling their way towards what is right or wrong, or through the dark for a brand new illness that no one's ever dealt with. But look, I think you're right. A lot of the conspiracy, a lot of the people who pre-2020 we would have laughed out of here are now mainstream today. And I think the COVID is that moment that, Alex Jones, who's now hanging around with the Department of Justice lawyers who are doing his bidding, according to this week's news. RFK Jr., complete joke figure, is now in charge of the nation's health. All of these people were kind of boosted by COVID and the pandemic. I agree with you. And the media has not recovered from that. I mean, if you look at some of the big moments, I said the 2003 Iraq War, the 2008 financial crisis, all of the kind of ISIS terrorism and the kind of the war on terror in 2015, 2014, where Trump jumps on that with his Muslim ban, and then obviously COVID itself, and then the insurrection. These are kind of major breaking moments, and the Republicans have just added this, building block upon block to build on the CC, we told you, it's all a lie. And it's cynical. And by the way, just to go back to something you said earlier, you said they don't talk to journalists anymore. What's interesting is, and that's true, they have a safe space, which is Fox and Newsmax and all of the rest, OANN. But actually, you look at, for example, the CNNs of this world and some of the network news, they've gone out of their way, bent over backwards to get Republicans on air. And they are back now. There was a period where Republicans didn't go on CNN. And now you can't switch on CNN without seeing Mike Johnson and all the rest of them on all the time, Ted Cruz. And again, that requires, not just CNN, but the media broadly, to basically pull some punches. Like Ted Cruz, in any normal universe, every time he comes on TV and says anything, it should be prefaced with, but you called for the overthrowing of the election. You voted to overthrow the election after an armed destruction. Like, we don't do that, right? We just politely park certain things. We don't say it kills me.
Do you? No, I mean, and I hear what you're saying. I sort of wonder what you make of the information landscape as we sit in it now, where you have Sinclair working to, cement the Trump legacy at the grassroots local level, not the grassroots, the local level. You have, institutional media being co-opted by people like David Ellison and Paramount CBS, which may include CNN and Time Warner in the not so distant future. You have TikTok. as someone who runs an independent media outlet that's been met with great success, I wonder how you think about getting the truth out there in the next, decade of the 21st century. I'm not going to ask you about like this century because God knows where we're going to be by 2040.
I think even the next decade is ambitious. I think about the next year.
Let's try next year. Let's go for a year.
Between now and the next midterm elections and the next presidential election, it's a huge. I mean, we are only 8 months into this presidency, and what Donald Trump has done to the information landscape, to free speech, to authoritarianism, it's everything those of us feared he would do, but kind of on steroids. Like he's done it in 8 months, not in 4 years. There's that line he said in his state after his 100 days. He said, "No one's done more than I've done in 100 days over whole terms." I was like, he's right for once. He's not lying. That's true. He has just bad stuff. And I think one thing that Democrats and liberals and co have two things I've always said that they've dropped the ball on. One is Supreme Court and the judiciary. Never paid enough attention to what the Republicans have done.
I'm writing a book about it, Mehdi. I'll send you
I can't wait to read it. We need it. I mean, the Federalist Society and the Republicans' 2030 year plan to kind of just pack the courts.
It all started in the Reagan 80s. That's my big tease.
With Democrats AWOL, right? Never really taking it seriously. Joe Biden just kicked a Supreme Court reform report into the long grass.
By the way, Joe Biden, even as a senator in the Reagan 80s, approving future Supreme Court justices. We'll talk about
Clarence Thomas blocking witnesses. So that's one area that really bothers me, and they've never really taken it seriously. And the other is the information landscape, right? We know the right built this amazing, super effective propaganda network online, on TV, in print. Meanwhile, Democrats are like, oh, we have CNN and MSNBC and the New York Times, and believed all this bullshit about the liberal media and never really put up a fight on the other side. And it's amazing how many, even today, I meet so many members of Congress, senators who just don't get it. They don't get what they're up against. They don't get the avalanche of misinformation. They say stuff like, they still think you can persuade voters the old ways. Like you go on a Sunday morning show, you make a reasoned argument, you put your manifesto out there. That doesn't work when the other side has an absolute 24/7 torrent of misinformation. It's like people who go on Fox, like Pete Buttigieg and Bernie. Like, there's a debate. Should Democrats go on Fox? They're like, oh, but we go and we reach the audience. You reach the audience for 20 minutes. For the other 23 hours and 40 minutes, it's pure propaganda, right? So I don't think they quite get what has been happening and what fight they're up against and how this is not normal times. And because of that, they haven't really changed their tactics. And I think that's going to be a real problem. For those of us who do work in independent media, we're trying to talk to politicians and saying, hey, come talk to us. Try and find different avenues of reaching people. A lot of my subscribers, a lot of Zateo subscribers, they don't really read the news at all. Whatever news they get comes from us. And we're not a full 24/7 news outlet at all. So we can't provide that. But my point being is, come talk to those of us in the independent space. I think progressive politicians have left that space for far too long, whereas right-wingers understood the value and efficacy of it very, very early on. Not just as a way of avoiding tough questions, but as a way of kind of getting your narrative out in a very, very...
Well, yeah, they went where they thought, they went to rooms where they thought they could be the loudest voices, right? Talk radio, that conservative ecosystem is alive and well, and that then extended to, podcasting. And then, by the way, they got their president elected, and now they populate the White House briefing room. I mean,
and it's anti-establishment, right? It's anti-establishment. It's that idea of the MSM, right? Even that phrase, the legacy media, all these words we use. A lot of these came from the right. I know people on the left use them, but a lot of them have their origins in the right wings, in talk radio, in AM, in all these Alex Jones folks and Rush Limbaugh. And, and today, they've always been around, but I pride myself, sadly, it's such a weird thing to take pride in. I pride myself in being able to talk to people at events or like family events or parties or random strangers. And if they're on the right, I can work out within moments where they got that talking point from. Like they will say that, I'm like, Benjamin, Tucker Carlson, but think about how powerful that is. I don't think there's an equivalent on the liberal left. I just don't. I know people right wingers say there isn't. Like I talk to lefties and progressives all the time, and I go, that's the exact line they got, because the right are so good at forming the talking points, doing the repetition, and then getting it out to a kind of audience that doesn't trust the mainstream.
And that they all do it. All of them are in lockstep with the talking points too. Yep, true.
But hangs on their every word, and it's really scary. And again, I don't think progressive and democratic politicians understand what they're up against.
Well, I think it's because people in the media also don't fashion themselves partisans, like in the MSM, right? I mean, it goes back to the beginning of our conversation. People are like, I'm in this for the facts. Well, at this point, the facts and information are part of, I guess, the progressive agenda, because the right wing...
Science is left wing.
Well, right. Science is left wing, like the Bureau of Labor Statistics, NOAA. I mean, if you're...
Also, Alex, don't forget, a lot of the journalists, the straight news journalists, have imbibed this idea from the right that they are biased. Don't forget, there is that self-correction. You and I have been in those news. There is a kind of constant self-correction, That's why you have so many right-wingers on the New York Times op-ed pages. Because the New York Times says, oh, we're seen as a liberal paper. Therefore, I must have Bret Stephens and all...
Yes. It's taken a while, but yes, that's true. People are getting it. They're understanding it. Yes. The left is like obsessed with this fighting off the I don't have Trump derangement syndrome. Look, we have right wingers that write op-eds here. Look, we hosted these people and we gave them a nice interview. Look, and it's like, who are you winning credit with? All you're doing is you're letting them invade your spaces. That's it.
The rest of them, David French and all these conservatives, they don't have socialists, they don't have lefties on their pages, but they've been told that they're liberal and that they're left, so they go out of their way to overcompensate. And that overcompensate, there's one thing someone pointed out, when you look at all of the Sunday shows, sometimes they have panels, whether it's Meet the Press, whether it's Facebook, whatever, all the different Sunday shows, and you'll often see on these panels, and until somebody pointed out, it never really hit me, that you'll have a conservative voice, like an actual, someone from the National Review or whatever it is, and then you'll just have a mainstream reporter as the other side, because it's accepted that the mainstream reporter is the liberal voice.
Yeah.
Because that person is grounded in reality.
It's insane.
I kind of wonder, and I know I asked you not to look into any kind of crystal ball, but I have...
It's only going to get worse. That's my crystal ball.
Well, right.
I don't see how it gets better, especially... I look at Hungary and I look at India.
And I was in Hungary doing reporting, and I remember thinking, oh, wow, we are way closer to this reality.
And way faster.
Way faster. Everyone in Hungary, the journalists and activists and the organizers and the advocates that I spoke to were like, wow, you guys slid way further, way faster than we thought possible.
Way faster. I mean, Orban did it over 8 years. We're doing it 8 months. Modi in India, there's no independent media left. Every cable channel in India is now owned by a billionaire friend of Modi. Erdogan, Turkey, very similar. Rich people have bought the channels to support the AK party. This all happened over 8, 10, 15 years in these countries. Trump has done it in 8 months. In fact, in his inauguration day, we saw all the big tech bosses, many of whom had criticized him in the past.
A little bit, though. The key guy, I always forget his name. The Keys, Lichtman. That was the most valuable thing I got from that conversation. Was that it's not just Trump. It's been a long time coming for the Republican movement. They've always been building up to this kind of stuff. They've always been having these types of entertainers, engaging in this kind of like weird half lie, half entertainment, whatever rhetoric. They've always been doing this. This is just like the next extension of the next version of it.
These countries. Trump has done it in 8 months. In fact, in his inauguration day, we saw all the big tech bosses, many of whom had criticized him in the past, the Sam Altmans and the Mark Zuckerberg. They were all lined up loyally behind him. Tim Cook, all these people who once attacked Trump fell into line. Then you have the Ellisons immediately taking over, as you said, CBS, maybe CNN, TikTok. Obviously, Fox is still a dominant player. You look around and you're like, wow, in 8 months, he's done to our media landscape what other authoritarians have taken 8 years to do. That is super scary, especially when the American media obviously is so dominant in the world too. It's not just America. It's English language. It's propaganda being pumped globally from these outlets. And that is super scary. So I don't see an easy way forward. Even those of us in independent media, we still rely on the big tech bosses, right? We're still on the social media platforms sharing our stories and our clips. So it is very worrying unless the Democrats can get their acts together, get off their asses, win back control of some levels of power, and then use that power to somehow rebalance the playing field in those two areas that I mentioned, the judiciary and the media, then we are in serious long-term trouble.
I wonder, again, playing the role of philosopher king, Mehdi, there's part of me that thinks this future that awaits us is like a feudal state of information where people basically don't believe anything unless they see it happen. Because we didn't talk about AI, but I'm not qualified to talk about AI right now.
Well, we're super fucked with AI.
We're super fucked with AI.
There's a YouTube video doing the rounds of me talking about Saudi Arabia, and it's not me, but it sounds like me. I thought it was me. Somebody sent it to me. Said, wow, this is a really interesting monologue from you. I'm like, that is not.
Like in some ways, I don't know if this is hot take or not. I actually don't think the AI shit matters that much for political stuff. People have been lying in media for decades. Like the lies have gotten really bad over the past decade. But like, I don't know if AI is significantly going to change that. Like people have been able to tell lies without it. You know, people are going to tell lies with it. I just don't know if it moves the needle that much on it.
Wow, this is what I'm saying. So you have this atomization of information, right? Everything's nebulized. Then you have the sort of disinformation, misinformation, and then you have virtual reality and artificial intelligence, which erode people's people being fastened in the real world. And I kind of wonder whether what we're barreling towards is this, like, again, like feudal state, like a pre-industrial revolution, pre-printing press even state where it's like the only experience I know is true is the one that I experience firsthand. And like, what are the implications there for trust in information? Is there a possibility that like all of the erosion one day leads to a mass desire for institutions once again? Is that like being way too Pollyannish about what could just be
I think
decline?
No,
she's right. Sorry to be the party people.
It'll happen.
I mean,
believe.
Look, if we go down this road, we've talked about, we have authoritarian precedents, right? We can look at history and see what happened in other countries and see what happened in places even more recently, like the Hungaries as well. What we don't have is we don't have a precedent for the technological side of this. So as you say, we don't know how AI will pan out. We don't know what the Peter Thiel Palantir role in all of this will be. We don't know how effectively Donald Trump 2 will secure all methods of communication and how free we will be to receive that. Your point about only believing what we see, even that, like, is it what you see in your personal life? Because even what you see on TV, people don't believe. Like Charlie Kirk got shot on TV. I've seen multiple conspiracies suggesting that didn't happen. So the kind of believe your lying eyes, even that I'm skeptical of. Like I said, we lived through a pandemic and now people will tell us it was all fake and all exaggerated. It was just a flu, even now. So I do think we don't have a precedent for the technological side of this for sure. And I think my worry with the US in particular is we are a society that has very little awareness of what happens outside our borders. So we're not aware of what's happening in other countries to try and even learn from or be afraid about. And Trump can weaponize that very well, kind of the ignorance, if I can call it that politely. And then you've got, obviously, we're a very violent society in general compared to most other Western democracies, which again plays a role in the COVID paranoia and the anti-government state and the distrust. In other countries, you distrust the government. You moan and whine in a bar or in a pub or online. Like in this country, you can go and shoot the CDC, as someone did the other day with 200 bullets, and kill a police officer, who Donald Trump and RFK Jr. have never mentioned. So I worry about the violent side of things as well here. And you mentioned, local journalism. We have seen attacks on the media in Trump's first term, in the Biden era, in the current term. I know that people, whether you're on the right or the left, wherever they go, have to travel with security now. That is our new reality. It is. We've got to weigh all of that in there in terms of what people are going to do about it. So no, unfortunately, I'm not. Look, I'm a hopeful person, but I don't think hope and optimism are the same thing. I am. I have hope that we will get through this, but I'm not optimistic.
Well, you have to have hope. You started a media company.
Exactly.
Right?
And also I'm a person of faith, so the hope comes with it. But optimism is very different to hope. Optimism means, hey, we'll be fine next year. No, we're not going to be fine next year. I'm super pessimistic. I think things are going to get much worse before they get any better, and they're only going to get better if we keep at it despite our pessimism.
Mehdi, you're a fount of wisdom and information. Thank you for taking time out of your important work and busy day to do this. I really appreciate you.
No, thanks so much. Congratulations on the podcast.
Thanks, bud.
Wow.
It is Thanksgiving, which means we are required by law to express gratitude. Luckily, I am really, truly grateful, especially to all of you who have subscribed to this YouTube channel.
What? Oh, boy. We got a meme? What's this? Hold on. Our queen?
This is my impression of a social media app. Open me, open me, open me. Ooh, you open me. Here's something you're interested in. Refresh before you could click. Never find again. Blah.